Hello, everybody, and I am back. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media money taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in YouTube entertainment today, with the thunder from down under. I don't know. I got to think of something catchy for you. I was gonna go that route, but I'm like, I don't
Oh,
know if you want
that's all right.
that.
I got it. You can say whatever you want, mate. You can say whatever you want. I'll come up with something.
But we moved the movie talks from Sunday to today, but don't worry, it will be coming back. And for everyone who just tunes in or turns this on and hears our magical voices for the first whatever, we're going to be doing a poll on Twitter that will let you guys decide what movies you would like us to review. So I got some suggestions, Stevie, and maybe I'll kick those over to you about some different movies from some people too, so we could throw a Twitter poll up and let people vote on what they'd like for us to review.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, so I'm here and you're here to talk about the bad times at the El Royale, and this is an interesting movie. This is an interesting case because this was a movie I felt like was really, really good. And it's one of those movies that got uh sort of swept under the rug as far as movie timing, because they released it with Goosebumps and Ad Astra or something like that. It was one of those movies that it was not going to do well. The box office was split, and this one kind of just fell in that weird middle spot.
Yeah. Uh, this was. I couldn't believe, uh, you know, the box office for this. So having a budget of 31 million or 32 million or something, and then looking at the cast and the way the film was done and the finished product we got, for it to only make 31 or 32 million at the box office, that was a real shock. That was a real
I
shock
know.
because, especially given the cast, and this was a 2018 film that had Chris Hemsworth in it as well. I mean, he's an Aussie. It should have made money. No,
I
but
know, right? That's your peeps.
he's well established as Thor by now, and so I would have thought anyone would want to go and see him as the draw card.
I know that's the thing that got, and even if okay, so even if you take Chris Hemsworth out of the equation, you have Jeff Bridges as well.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, I don't know to like the younger crowd how much they know Jeff Bridges, but I mean, the older crowd at the very least, you would think you would have coming in, seeing his name. They had what's his name? Damon Lewis, was it or something? Blank it out on it. I got it.
Lewis Pullman. Is that the one you're
Yeah,
talking about?
Lewis Pullman and the guy from Mad Men, Jason Hamm. There we go.
John Hamm. Yeah,
John Hamm. I was close. Damn names.
it
But yeah,
starts with a J. It's very close. Um.
at least I was in the ballpark.
Oh, absolutely. No, you were spot on, mate. So yeah, I mean, this is a great cast. And do you know who really surprised me in this one as well? So yeah, I mean, like you said, Chris Hemsworth, I would have thought would be the draw card for that main crowd, I guess. But you've got Jeff Bridges as well, who's awesome. But someone who really surprised me in this was Dakota Johnson. I
Oh
thought she was
yeah,
really good.
she was excellent in this. Like, I don't remember what other movies that I've seen her in, but but she's one of those actresses that you see her in a lot of movies, but you don't know her name, but you see her and you go,
Mm.
oh yeah, I remember her from. She's one of those actresses,
Oh
but
yeah,
in
she
this
is.
one, without a doubt, she stole the show. And I would even say seeing Hemsworth kind of doing a role because you're used to seeing him as Thor, and then he's a cult leader. And it's
Oh, he
like
was great. I thought he
he
was really
was
good.
he was really amazing. So in case you guys are just joining us or just will join us or whatever, in this movie, it is sort of a mystery drama kind of a movie. You got a bunch of people who check in at the El Royale, which is a casino with a motel that's designed to look like a casino. It's on the Nevada and what was it? Nevada,
California.
California border. And so they built a hotel that's kind of got the best of both worlds. And you go on one end, you have Nevada, the other end, you have California. Cool idea. And all of these people gather together in this hotel, and they all have a dark secret. And here's the thing: this kind of theme is not new in cinema. It's been done 1,000 times. But I think what really sets this apart is the director mixes some Quentin Tarantino esque kind of stuff in this movie, along with some great acting and things like that. And it really sets itself apart. Like right away, I kind of felt it was different than most of the movies I've seen in this genre. What was your take when you were?
Yeah, I think as soon as I saw it, I was like, did Tarantino direct this? Because it really does have that vibe with the different characters showing the different timelines and each individual's story in certain points, but then also cutting back to the main plot and all the characters together. So, I think it was really good in that sense. And I think you're right. It was different in that it kind of felt more like a thriller, especially in the beginning. It felt more like a thriller than, say, a Tarantino film, which is more like a a hardcore action type film
Yeah.
with that directing style. But this one felt a little bit more like a thriller. It was a little bit more suspenseful in that first half of the movie, I think, especially when we were finding out what was in the depths of the hotel, what was in what was behind the scenes, and some of those other things that were going on. It was a little bit more like a thriller, and then I felt like in the second half, it was a lot more like one of those Tarantino type films.
And this director, I didn't know, directed one of my all-time favorite horror movies that was a surprise movie and
Cabin in the Woods.
consequently, yeah, had Hemsworth in it too, Cabin in the
Yeah,
Woods. And Hemsworth was also good in that movie as well. So this guy really knows how to direct a cast, and I get a sense that he knows how to frame a shot, right? And he knows what to get in that shot from everyone. Because and I didn't realize it too. And then thinking about it and then going back through and looking at the shot style, it is a lot. Because I watched both Cabin in the Woods coincidentally, and then I watched this so that we can talk
yeah,
about this. And I was like, oh yeah, I see this I see the same styles in both of these. So it was really interesting watching this film and going, yeah, I could see it. It was definitely it was very cool. And I didn't realize too that he had also worked on The Martian as well.
yeah. Well, he's only credited with two directing roles, which is Cabin in the Woods and this one. But he's had a lot of oh my god, screenplay involvement, I should say, with quite a lot of movies. But I was just yeah, it was interesting that this was his only his second crack at directing. I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought he did a pretty decent job. Um, I liked the way that the shots were framed. I actually really liked the way that most of the characters were revealed. He did actually shock me a couple of times, like when and I forget her name, but when the singer whacks the priest over the head with a bottle, I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" And I thought nothing of that in the beginning. I knew he was going to be dodgy, and he was probably going to try and drug her or something. But then when she whacked him with the bottle, I was like, "Whoa, what the hell?" So a few of those character reveals and revealing their stories, I thought the way that he handled it was really good. And part of it was the shot framing, obviously the editing too. But yeah, I thought that was really well handled.
And here's the thing. This is out in that time period where we're in this SJW nonsense. We're still balls deep in that. And um this is one of those things where when I first saw the promo for this movie and I saw who the leads were, it's just the time we live in. I automatically assume as soon as there's a female in the film, you got to kind of um, almost set yourself up for that. They might try to make them the highlight, but I actually enjoyed Cynthia's character a lot, um, because she had such a vulnerability about her, but he kind of set up the kind of person she was in that moment. When she cracked him over the head with the bottle, I had so much respect because he showed that she had this vulnerability, but she was also not stupid either. And it wasn't too forced. It seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed like, because I was thinking, oh man, she's not paying attention. And then then she just smacked him, and I was like, oh, she was. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. It was very well done. It was very well done, and I agree. I was the same. I thought, okay, she's a completely different character to what I thought she was, and then as the movie went on, her character, like you said, it had a good mix. She had a good mix of vulnerability, but also strength at the same time. So and really just through her acting as well, we could tell that she had been through some stuff, and from that she was strong and she was prepared to do whatever it took, which I thought was
which,
really interesting.
yeah, it was. And here's the thing: across the board, we had what's like three female characters in the movie, and at any point, any of those female characters, and let's just take politics out of it, because let's go. You and me are doing the old school, right? And we're talking from a film perspective now. So you do have the other problem with the female characters that directors do, where they're just kind of there, right? In a movie like this,
Mm.
where people are going to die, right? They don't put a lot of detail or anything in them because they know they're going to off them, right? So it feels like they make these characters kind of disposable. But no one in this movie, even the people who were around for like a couple of minutes, like John Hamm, for instance, I thought he was going to have a bigger role, but every character they had made you intrigued the moment they were introduced. And I credit that to great writing, because it's one thing to have easily disposable characters that are cardboard and they just are plot devices to move your story along. But it's one thing even to have a character that's on screen for a total of like 5-10 minutes and you're curious about them because of how he sets it up. And it shows a real care to the story and to the characters in the story. And I found that the most, you know, refreshing in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And he didn't spew out the character exposition just needlessly. So, and case in point is Miles, right? The bellhop, or the clerk, whatever his job is, the guy who runs the hotel basically, or manages the hotel. He, in the beginning, right from his first lines, where he sees the priest, right, and he says, "This is no place for a priest." That one line straight away gives you some insight into his character, or makes you think, why is he saying that? That's odd. What an odd thing to say. You know,
Because it's his
it's
job. Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
his job to have people at the hotel, and he's trying to tell the priest not to be there. So straight away we're going, okay, well that's weird. And then it wasn't until a long time later in the movie that we got more about his character, and then of course until the very end we got what his character was really about and why he was really that way. But I thought that that was really interesting how he did that and how the character was revealed, and he did that, basically with all the characters throughout. But I don't know. This is a question. Did you notice any extras in the film?
I
Any
I
people
I
who actually didn't have a big part?
you know, besides, to tell you the truth, besides like John Hamm, like, to me, he was probably the most short-lived character. And I mean, even that didn't feel like it because, like you said, the setup was so great. Yeah, I really didn't
Mm,
notice any extras because even with the attack on the hotel, you don't really have many people but the core cast. It was as if it was just
mm,
them. That,
exactly.
I mean, if there was, I didn't see any
Well, see,
because
I
if I
thought.
remember,
No, you go.
what I thought Hemsworth came in on his own, right, in the rain because he had like no, the whole lady fan service
Yeah.
thing. I,
He did come in the rain. Look, he did come in on his own, but there was two henchmen um, who didn't speak, and actually in all of the all of the scenes at the Royale after Chris Hemsworth turns up, the extras don't say anything, or his henchmen don't say anything. So I think that's really good because it keeps the focus on the main characters. And the only
and
other
see, that got
time,
me because I had to think about it. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
didn't he have
exactly, yeah.
got?
But the only other time there was extras in it, again, who didn't really speak, was when Chris Hemsworth was doing they were introducing his character, Billy Lee, as the cult leader, and the cult members were there, and that was what 5-10 minute scene introducing his character, and the cult followers were there. But again, they really didn't do anything. They didn't really play a role. They were just there. Um, but the whole focus at the hotel, all of it, was on the main characters. And apart from John Hamm, who played the FBI agent, he was really, I suppose, the main focus of the first act. And then from there, he, all of those other characters, every single one of them, had just as much, or at least I felt like, just as much screen time, just as much focus, and just as much development as all the other characters.
And now that you point that out, that's really interesting because it's kind of like a Joker-esque thing. We could even say before Joker, right? Because in Joker, I mean, sure, there were a lot more extras, but the focus was Joaquin Phoenix and the other people that surrounded him, mostly Joaquin Phoenix. But yeah, this was a very he did an amazing job, and he did something that writers don't do now, which is he focused on a set of characters. And I think a lot of problem in the movies, and we're just going to take out like the Disney and the things like that, just it with movies in general, is that there's this new type of thinking in Hollywood where they feel like they got to fill up the screen with all of these people who are all interacting, and you've got all of these different characters all over the place, and it confuses the audience because they can't lock in on one specific person unless you like define it. Okay, this is the protagonist, this is the antagonist, this is like the thing. But then you got all of these people, and you get to the end of the movie, and you're like, and we've critiqued it this way too for some of these newer films. Like, why was this person in here? They really didn't add nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. He had a core of characters he started out with. He had a group of people that he clearly wanted us to focus on. He did the flashbacks so you knew these people all had an important thing. And then he tied it all into how they all tied in together. And I think it benefited the story because he could focus on developing the characters. Because when you think about it, there's what, four characters, five? There's the twin
Uh,
sisters, Chris Hemsworth, John Hamm, uh, um,
the priest. Did you
the
already say him?
priest,
Jeff
yeah,
Bridges.
Bridget,
And there's the clerk,
in the clerk.
More miles. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you think about it, that's five people. Five people this guy focuses on in this movie. And by movie standards, that's astonishing because how many big budget movies do you see where the extras get time and you got the like you said, you got the goons who feel they need to talk or say something funny and it detracts from the people you're trying to focus on.
Yeah, and I think it's really good too because overall, just as a technique, because it really lets the actors act. It allows them to actually do their work, and hopefully translate what their character is about to us visually, without having to spew loads and loads of dialogue. And there was a scene in it as well that sort of goes to what I'm saying there, where so we're happy for spoilers, right? Well,
Yeah, yeah.
have we passed that point? Okay, so when they in the hallway that's behind the rooms, behind those one-way mirrors, so that they can see into all of the rooms from that hallway. The scene where Dakota Johnson's character walks in there, and so she's established at this point as crazy. She's blown John Hamm to pieces, and she's tied up her sister. She's tied up Miles as well, the clerk. So she's established as crazy at this point, basically. But what they
Yeah,
did
okay.
well was they cut from Cynthia and Jeff Bridges talking in the car. We didn't know what the outcome was of that, and then we just saw Cynthia sitting in her chair singing in her room. And so, and then Dakota Johnson's character, the crazy one, she's like, where's everyone else in the hotel? So she goes for a walk down this hallway to look through the windows. And what he did well visually there was that, okay, we know that she's the crazy one. We get a shot of her walking down the hallway, and she's obviously going to kill anyone who's a threat or anything like that. And so then we get to see Cynthia through the window. She's doing her singing thing. And we're like, okay, what's going on here? And he held the camera on her for just long enough that it wasn't annoying and it didn't feel like too long. But then he started panning around the room. And the final shot, after 360 degrees almost, the final shot gave us a look at Jeff Bridges on the floor in her room hiding. And from that, straight away, we knew, okay, they know this other chick's crazy. They've seen her shoot someone. They don't want to make any noise, so that's why she's singing. That's why he's on the floor trying to be quiet and he's hiding behind the beds. We just knew from all it was her singing and the visual and that camera panning around to him at the floor, and we knew exactly what was going on in that scene.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that got me. And, it's so great to be able to talk about aesthetics in a movie. This is why I love doing this because I love doing these breakdowns. And I've had some people give some comments, by the way. Thank you for everyone who watches these because we do get a lot of rewatches. And they said they love our detailed commentary. But let's talk about for a second one thing that's been sorely missing in so many movies. And, you
Acting.
know, well, we got
Story.
that in space. Yeah, we got the acting of the story, but what about the aesthetics? The way they did the visuals, like splitting the casino and showing the casino itself felt like a character because you get that the very first scene, right? The guy hiding the money, waiting, gets a knock on the door, turns his back, gets blown away, and then it's time jumps. So the casino itself, or the hotel, I say casino because they did the like lounge thing, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like the hotel itself feels like a living, breathing character and the aesthetics change from the rooms because it's supposed to mirror two different sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
California and Nevada. So you literally have these rooms where they're split in the middle, and you've got one type of set piece on one side and one on the other. And I gotta say, uh, I don't know how he stretched that budget the way he did, but nothing to me felt the same, or if it was the same, it was intentionally done. It didn't feel like anything he threw in there visually we weren't meant to see, or they just half-assed it. It like they put a lot of detail into this set.
Do you know what? That's one of the things that I really liked about this. And look, this was a great film. Don't get me wrong, but I do have to just a couple of negative points later for later. But as far as the aesthetic goes, this was brilliant. This was amazing. I mean, I felt like I was in the hotel with these people, and this is one thing where, and I really like that you brought this up because this is one thing that gets missed so often these days is having that detail in the set. Practical effects are something else that lacks these days. But in terms of having the location, the aesthetic, the feel of the film, and having that feel like a character in it, it's just something that doesn't get done. And what he also did here was made it feel like a character because he almost introduced the hotel the same way as the characters in the film. Because we got that spiel from John Hamm's character, the FBI agent, giving us the big history on the Royale, and then we got Miles giving us the spiel about the hotel. And so the way that it had been described by two main characters in the first 10 minutes developed, or sorry, not developed, but it portrayed the hotel as a character, as something with context, with feel, with texture, that then from the rest of the movie on felt like it was a part of the film, in terms of its own character. And then the other part that added to that was when we first got the hallway revealed, the pervert hallway, I'm going to call it. We got the
Oh yeah,
pervert
that was
hallway
creepy, man.
revealed, and the camera was in there, and Miles is saying that the owners used to get get him to record stuff and send it to him, and that just added that another little element to the hotel of the character of the hotel as well, because although we never meet the owners, it gives us that creepy kind of feel, and you just have a feeling about the hotel the whole time. And something else that he threw in there, which can be a bit cliched and a bit just a bit annoying, especially in thriller slash horror films, is when it starts pouring rain. But I actually felt like that was a good element in this. It didn't take away the entire focus, and it didn't have any real impact on any of the characters, but it just added to the sense of it being closed in. And that, especially that night being when Dakota Johnson killed John Hamm, it just added to that sense of entrapment, I guess, or being trapped at that hotel.
Yeah, that and the other kind of character that it adds, the hotel itself, and oh my God, we're gonna get into actual movie stuff. I can't believe it, but it felt like the hotel added to the theme, and the theme, at least to me, felt like things that were hidden, right? Everyone had a secret that came, some deep, dark secret that was hidden and later revealed. Just like the hotel, it had its own deep, dark secrets when we got the room and, that people were spying on and the cameras and things like that. So it felt like this was a place where people came with secrets to hide away. And this one night, everything gets brought out. We get the hotel being exposed for what it is, right? With the secret hallways and people using them to hunt other people, just like everybody else has a secret in the movie that gets exposed eventually to us as the audience. So it really helped to reinforce this theme that they were going for, that everyone had something to hide. All of the secrets were coming out, and it just, this one night was just a night where everyone was trapped, everything's getting exposed, everything's getting put on the table. And I really like that because, that like you said, you just don't see that anymore. That even the hotel itself was a part of this whole running theme, which was, everyone was lying about something.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that they all connected together in the hotel made sense as well. Like I like the way that he showed the different perspectives of the same point in time of the story. So we had the shooting of John Hamm's character, Broadbeck, I think his name was, the shooting of Broadbeck from his perspective, from the priest and Miles' perspective, from Cynthia's perspective. We got it from all of those perspectives, and something that does, and that's sort of the Tarantino-esque kind of filmmaking and directing. But the thing that does is it gives you all a connection for all of the characters from that point onwards in the story, which certainly carried on that theme of right, okay, everyone's hiding something. We don't know what it is yet, but everyone's hiding something. Um, and that's definitely the theme for me as well. Is that there's just everybody on the surface appears to be normal people, happy, all good, and then and then beneath the surface, every single one of them has a dark secret, and some darker than others.
Yes, so we've been going on and talking about how great the movie is, but it is my saddest point, and I'm going to start with you because I've got a few caveats myself. What were some negative points that you felt uh kind of brought it down?
Well, look, I think one of the negatives for me is, and when I say negative, it's I liked the film. I quite enjoyed it, but overall, for me, there's a positive and a negative in the same place, and that's when you have uh, these different timelines and storylines and backstories for the characters. And I think, with that, um, you've got to be. It's just such a juggling act and such a balancing act to get the right amount of character development or backstory, um, and also being able to make the main story progress. So I think that with that, there was probably, I think, a little bit, in some cases, too little, and in some cases, too much uh, screen time for those backstories to be given. So I didn't quite have the emotional connection to some of the characters, which I would have liked to have had. So when we got to the final scene where Chris Hemsworth got them all tied up in the hotel lobby, I would have liked to have been feeling a little bit more for some of those characters that were on death's door, basically, or in trouble. And I didn't feel that. Like, I was interested to see what happened, but there's a difference between being interested in seeing what happens and being emotionally invested in any of the characters because we don't want something to happen to them. And so I didn't feel that. And the other one was just the overall runtime. I felt was a little long. I was satisfied with the film overall, but it could have been a little bit shorter, I think, and that probably ties into my first point there of how they did the character introductions, backstories. Probably more so the backstories than the intros, because I felt like the intros were fairly good. It was more the backstories that I felt could have just been adjusted.
You know what? We are actually on the same page there. If and folks, if you've been on my channel, one of my big pet peeves is how the feeling that everyone has to have a 2 hour epic. And look, don't get me wrong, this movie has the stuff to keep you invested for that. I mean, once you go into that opening scene, you're going to be intrigued enough to follow it all the way down the rabbit hole. But it's like you said, there comes a point where like there's a few dialogues here and there, a couple of, like you said, flashbacks here and there where I was like, if you cut this and tightened up the runtime a little bit, it'd be damn near perfect. Because yeah, like you said, there were some things I like to like, for instance, Beckett, right? Like, intriguing, right? He's the opening act, and he essentially screws everyone over, and he's very intriguing. But after that first act, you hear nothing. Like, you don't know why they were looking into this or what the deal was exactly. I mean, you can kind of piece together and make your own thing, but I would have liked to know more. Like, why is the FBI involved? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
they
yeah.
don't give that whole subplot. So it makes kind of like his character feel a little bit throwaway just to have him there for a cameo instead of, like, what they did with all the other characters and have them, fleshed out. And also too, Rose, like they didn't give much about her either. So like you're saying, when they're all tied up, and this is a person who has literally their sister tied up playing, Russian roulette, it's hard for me to connect with them when, these people are getting off, because it's, the two people I felt that I connected the most with was Miles and Jeff Bridges, especially when he gives that speech about basically like hinting to he has Alzheimer's, and
Mm.
then you see him drug. He's so interesting because you don't know, is he conning? And then you feel like there's some truth. I mean, Jeff Bridges is just phenomenal in the movie because
Mm.
you feel for him, but you know too that he's a con man, but you still like him and Miles are the two people I think I emotionally connected with the most, especially when they went into Miles' backstory and military, all that. I got that, and I was like, oh, that's wow. And
Mm.
not to mention he's just badass.
Yeah. Well, up to that point, I think absolutely with Broadbent, John Hamm's Broadbeck, John Hamm's character, there was a lot of scenes where he was talking to his FBI boss, his FBI director, whatever. That really, as the movie goes on, are absolutely unnecessary and don't add anything to the film because we don't get to explore, see what that was all about, what the point of him being there really was in the first place. Um, it's just more like he was a plot device to get the thing moving, which it did,
We're
and
on the same wavelength. I was just going to say
but
that plot
but
device just to
but
trap them there.
yeah, exactly. But I think that's not to say they couldn't have just done that in the same sort of way, but they didn't need to cut 2 or 3 times for a 2 to 3 minute scene of him talking to his boss or reporting back or anything like that. Do that once. Let us know that he's FBI. Great, excellent. We know that he's FBI now. He's reporting back to somebody. He's there for some case. Doesn't matter what for. If you're not going to explain it later, he's there for some case, and this is what he's doing. Because his actions, once you know that he's an FBI agent working on a case, his actions after that are just explainable. You just know why he's doing things. We don't need to hear from his phantom FBI director about that. So you could have taken probably 10 minutes off the runtime just by removing those scenes. And 100% agree. Jeff Bridges was fantastic, and he was probably the character I related to the most. Um, and and Miles as well. But it's hard with Miles because you don't get his full backstory until almost the end, and so along the way when he's tied up and he's looking like he's going to get offed somehow, you don't really feel that bad for him because he's just sort of been a bit of a weasel all the way through. And
And I
then
was going to ask you that. What did you exactly think? Because I got to say, um, it did hit me, and maybe I'm just biased towards military stuff, but like, and I felt like it was a weird place to put his story, but for me personally, it worked because I've never seen them do a reveal like that. Because then it's one of those moments where you said I was thinking the same thing. You're like, this guy's a weasel, whatever else. And then you get his backstory, and then he gets the gun and starts shooting people, and you're like, oh shit, this has been the bellhop the whole time. I felt
yeah
like it was. I have, and I mean, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't ever seen a movie do that before with the character.
yeah well I feel like absolutely not. I feel like I've seen reveals in a similar fashion but not so specific like that, and for him to be a completely different character to what we thought in the beginning was really clever. It was really clever, I thought, and in the end, he sort of saves them all. Really, well, maybe not all of them, but he saves He saves the main two characters, well, the ones that survive at the end, and um, for him to be revealed like as that character, it absolutely made sense. And let's not forget or overlook the acting ability of Lewis Pullman here, because he actually did a fantastic job as this character. He played the sort of quirky, dweeby sort of clerk throughout the movie, and he was very sort of timid and not imposing whatsoever. But we again with the visual storytelling, and I'm just such a fan of the visual rather than spewing dialogue. But when his character was revealed, and Cynthia was lying on the floor, and she looks at him, and she says, he's saying to her, "I can't kill any more people. I can't kill any more people," and she says, "That's fine. You know what? Don't worry. You don't have to kill any more people." And you can see there's more in his face. You can see that there is more going on there, and then we get the montage of his history and his backstory, and there's like one or two words that you hear throughout that montage. It's not much, but from that, and then cutting back to uh, the real time, you know exactly who he is and where his motivations are and why he didn't do anything before, why he's doing something now. And it's just that side of it I thought was fantastic. And Lewis Pullman, he gets props from me. He did a very good job portraying both parts of that character.
And welcome, Curtis. Welcome, Gary North. Curtis goes to me, Zod, could you compare this movie to Knives Out for fun? There's no comparison. One has great reveals. The other has stereotypical uh, nonsense. The, okay, this movie was very eloquently done in how they revealed stuff, minus the few little key points we hit on earlier. Knives Out was so predictable because, all right, Curtis, to put this in perspective, me and my girl figured it out halfway in the movie, and we were both upset. We knew exactly who the killer was. That is terrible storytelling, and it was because of, like we were talking about earlier, Stevie, visuals, right? But Rian Johnson has this thing where he treats the audience like they're stupid, and he zooms in on this ladder that they use to get into the house. And spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
and any of you care to see that movie, uh, so they zoom in on this ladder, and Chris Evans climbs in and climbs out, and the old lady says something that she only says to the nephew. So if you're paying attention, you pretty much put it together. And it's a 2 hour movie. This is in the hour and 20-minute mark. So I was hoping, like, please don't let it be Chris. Don't. And I was like, you know what, Ryan, I tried. I I tried to give you the benefit. Whereas with this movie, you had visuals, but this guy didn't treat you like an idiot, and he only gave you stuff that you needed at that specific moment, which is why I was bringing up this scene at the ending, right? Because that's pretty ballsy to do his review, considering how pivotal he is to the end of the movie. It's a
Mm.
ballsy play to do his reveal at the very end of the film without giving us any context. That's really trusting your audience to buy into it. And that's the whole end of the movie, right? So that could go one of two ways. Either I take it you brought it like I did. So either we buy it as an audience, or we go, come on, man, he was this the whole time. You need your actor to be able to pull off this thing like he's a weasel, he's nervous, but there's something kind of odd about him. And that's, I think, what made it work at the ending, was when you're watching his character. I don't know if you got the same vibe I did, Stevie, but I'm looking at him and I'm going, he's kind of squirrely, but there's something like not right. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we haven't gotten anything on him. So you're like, he's the one guy we don't know anything about, and he's in these rooms looking at people, and he sees everything.
You know what it reminded me of? Do you know what he reminded me of? And I agree, he did a fantastic job, but he reminded me of a Norman Bates type character. So,
Yeah.
I mean, although Norman Bates wasn't, he was just a psychopath and wasn't necessarily strong or anything in the end, or that talented, I guess. Um, he reminded me of that character. So, watching him throughout the movie, and this is his acting, and look, the directing too, probably, but this is his acting. You could tell there was something more there. You didn't know quite what it was, but you could just tell there was something there that wasn't revealed yet. And when they finally did reveal it to make it believable, um, it was just a few little things that they added in. Like after we see the montage. Now the montage, this is getting really detailed, but that's what we're here for. So I hope this isn't boring everybody. But in the montage, they focused on one specific skill. So yes, he was in the military. Yes, he was a good shot on the farm. But they focused so heavily on him being a good shot at all of those stages in the montage that we know, okay, that is the focus point. So, and it even to the extent that it gave the feel that although was a great shot, although he was in the wars and stuff, he was at somewhat a reluctant hero, to say, just to put a term on it, but he was a reluctant hero in the war as terms of he knew he was a great shot, so he used that skill for what it needed to be used for. But he didn't want to be there. He wanted to repent the whole time. He felt guilty about it all. So it just added even more to his character reveal and his character at the end, that they focused so heavily just on that marksmanship side of it. And he was reluctant to be involved in violence, but knew that his skill was needed, so he was involved. And so it just, I just thought that part of it was really well done. I don't know. Did you notice that? Did you think something similar?
Yeah, because when I saw that, and why I found it believable is you have a lot of guys like that, right? They're very unassuming. They could even be skinny, whatever else, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't work out like the big beastie guys. I mean, when I was in, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I have a particular set of skills.
Good luck.
but, but yeah, I mean, but and that's the type of people that the service use. His type, right? They're skinny, they're unassuming, but they have a skill. And in drill camp and boot camp, that's what they hone in on. That's specifically what the military does. They break you down and they find what you're good at. And they specifically assign you based on what your skill set is. And his clearly was shooting. So when I saw that, and then they were cutting back and forth, and I was like, dude, if this guy picks up a gun, and then he did, I go, oh, whoa. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that they got him was only, I feel, out of luck. Because, I mean, he put them down rather quickly. So,
Yeah.
and like, for me, I wanted to highlight one thing, too, about his character, too. It made it more believable, was the whole confession thing. I
Yes,
wanted to bring that up.
absolutely.
That was, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like to admit when I get choked up. But the reason why that particular thing hit me the hardest was because, and I caught it because I didn't catch it the first time when I saw the movie because I was too enthralled with the holy crap, why aren't people seeing this? Um, when when I watched it again for us to do this review, I never realized that him and Jeff Bridges had talked about it at the beginning of the movie, but
Mm.
because Jeff Bridges
Mm-hmm.
was pretending, he was skating around the issue.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he
Yep.
says to him by the bar, I have something I need to confess. And,
Yep.
he had just gotten cracked over the head with a bottle, and it made sense.
Yeah.
It's like, not now, son.
He's like, piss off. I just got whacked over the head. Don't try and confess to me now.
So, so it was like when that scene comes up at the ending and he's looking at Cynthia and Cynthia's just like, give the kid his confession,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I felt like he knew he wasn't a preacher, but he just needed that. He needed to feel like he could just get that off of his chest, you know? And they had
Yeah.
seen what he could do, and he just needed that before he kicked off to the next world. And I felt like that right there was my emotional connection to him, because I was like, wow, that's
Well, do you
really
know,
heavy stuff.
that's a great point because, I mentioned before one of my negatives was the lack of emotional connection to the characters. And that's not, I want to separate that from being interested in seeing what happens, which is a different thing because I was very interested to see what happened. It was all set up very well and all of that. And I like I said, I did enjoy it. But in terms of the emotional connection, um, probably the most anxious I felt for a character was when he had been revealed and he's killed all the henchmen and all of that. And he went over to Rose and tapped her on the shoulder. And when I saw her turning around with the knife, I was like, "Oh no, don't do that! No, not the poor dorky super killer clerk. Don't kill
and,
him."
and and that spoke a lot too to because there was this theme I felt like he threw in with the war thing, right? Because he was reluctant, he didn't want to kill any people. Everyone had something that they had to alleviate, whether they wanted to or not, right? Throughout the whole thing, even Rose and her sister, because you think her sister is crazy, but then come to find out she's just as freaking nuts. She loses it too.
Yeah,
So, I mean, and to see her, because it was Rose who tied up what's her face in the beginning of the movie, trying to get her out. And at the end, then she loses her mind too.
yeah,
and
yeah. It's all just they're both crazy.
and to see her turn around, and two, this guy, right? He came back from war. A war zone couldn't kill him. You know, he probably had that on his mind, like I should have died a ton of times. And he gets done in the most shocking of ways, because she seems like the one they need to save throughout this whole thing,
Yeah,
and she knifes him. And that got me too, because the way they set her character up, she seems like the one doing the favor, and then she turns around and literally, well, doesn't stab him in the back, but stabs him in
yeah.
the chest. And it's just like, wow. Like, one thing this movie did well, even if you were just interested, is the reveals and the shocks. They didn't feel cheap.
Oh yeah. No, they didn't. They definitely they definitely had impact. Like I tell you, when Broadbeck got shot, I was genuinely surprised. I was like, "What the hell just happened?" and, and where do we go from here? Because he's been sort of the main focus up to this point. So what the hell? What's going on now? Um,
And
and,
that was
and,
a
and yeah, no,
sign he did in Cabin in the Woods too. Was like,
yeah,
unlike most horror movies, when you're watching that, there's a lot of little scenes, and I know it was written by Josh Whedon, and I love Josh Whedon, but the way he executed that movie as well, there was a lot of cuts and things that he did that made it more shocking. So when I'm watching this movie, I'm like, he's got that thing that some directors don't have, where
mm,
he's just really good at shots and framing things and knowing just the right amount of time to keep stuff. Like, even, okay, that scene at the end with Miles, you don't even know that she's gonna stab him till the very last second,
mm,
because of the way she's got herself angled. So when he goes to like tap her, or do the thing on the
yeah,
shoulder, we don't see that knife until she's like, basically
just about to
stabbing.
do it. Yeah, yeah. No, it was handled very well, and I think there's something to be said for because to look at it at face value, there's nothing really you would look at and go, "Wow, that's visually amazing," or that's nothing overtly fantastic about the cinematography. But I think there's something to be said about doing a good job at that, and and the editing and those sorts of things to make it feel seamless and to make it feel smooth, like there isn't anything distracting or overtly over the top in terms of the visuals. We had a great aesthetic with the hotel, with all of the look of everything, which just sat there in the background as like this surrounding character around all of them. And then, the way that he did all the reveals and everything, it's so simple, really, in terms of the idea of it. But when it's executed well, it has such an impact. And I'm such a fan of the audience being treated as intelligent people because you know what, I want to be. I would much prefer be sitting at the movies, um, and be asking myself, oh, what, I wonder what that's all about. What's going on there? Oh, that was interesting. We just saw, this shot. I wonder what that meant. And not actually knowing what it means until somewhere later on. Now, I should be clear here. That is extremely frustrating if you don't get any payoff or you never find out anything about it. But if it's done right and you get that kind of, intense involvement throughout it, like, I need to know what happens here. What the hell was that all about? What, I wonder why they did that. Or you need that kind of engagement. And if you don't have that, it just makes it a boring film and very flat. But because you have that feeling of, okay, I need to know what happens here, it makes it interesting, and then the reveals have impact as well, and you feel like that was clever, or in some cases shocking. Whatever it was, it's good, it's enjoyable to watch. Um, but it's really key, obviously, that you have the payoffs, because if you set all of those things up and you start the audience asking those questions and never answer any of it, all you're going to do is have people, as if they've just gone to watch a soccer match with no goals. They're going to be rioting, and there's going to be flares and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, I mean, it was like and here's the thing, and I'm hoping that he does more films because you have very few directors. It's very like Nolan, pick a good director where they can visually make something cool, but it's just not in there just because ooh, flashy, look at the sparkles kind of a thing. Everything has a purpose, and any good director. See, and I feel like that's where Hollywood has gotten away. And I could trace it back to when you first started getting really good CGI, right? There's been this thing in Hollywood, and once again, people taking out the SJW nonsense. Just in general, filmmakers have felt lazy, like self reliant on 3D special effects, building everything from computers. I mean, even backgrounds, and it doesn't feel real. It feels hollow. It feels like computer generated effects when you're watching it. And people ask me like, what my gripe is with Black Panther, and that's exactly my gripe because the running joke. I gave it a 7.5, but I think it's trash. And my my reasons are because is it visually good? Yes. Is it decently acted? Debatable, but yeah, I guess. Um, but my problem is the overuse of the CGI to a point where it doesn't feel like anything in the movie is real. It doesn't feel
Hmm.
like anything's organic. None of the background, even if they're shooting on location, feels like a living, breathing environment. It just feels like a prop instead of a place. And that's where
Hmm.
this movie really shines, is not at one point in the film did I feel like I was in a set or anything like that. It felt like you said, we were in this hotel with these people and we were all trapped there watching everything unfold. And I think that people forget that's the most important part. And that's where I think a lot of these new movies lose their audience, the charm, because people have been seeing just visual effects after visual effects, and that's why these practical films are shocking people, like the Jokers and Parasite and things like that, because those films are real films. They're shot on locations. They're not
Yeah.
some soundstage somewhere.
And, there's a lot of talk of CGI cutting budgets, being used to, uh, you know, rein in the budget and keep the budget smaller. But these days, that's not really the case. And when you look at things like, say a Justice League or something like that, where there's so much visual effects, um, the budget is actually huge, and you would almost be more cost effective to set up a practical set. Now, albeit, of course, you can't you can't do a practical set for everything, for aliens and things like that, for alien worlds. But what I will say is practical effects overall have a longer lasting legacy than any CGI that can be created. Because, and I think did I mention this with you the other day? I'm not sure, but go back to the '70s, right, to Alien, and I don't want to digress too much, but there was so much work that went into the practical sets of Alien, and Ridley Scott was so meticulous about how he wanted everything to feel and how he wanted it to look, and they even engaged a German artist who was a little bit weird. Let's just put that out there, to create all of the Alien artwork and the set artwork, and he actually made real life size models of the sets. So it was all practical. And let me tell you, if you watch Alien again today, apart from apart from like the color grading and maybe a few of those things that may be improved these days, uh, there's those practical sets still hold up today. You watch Alien now, and I guarantee you will still be impressed by the sets. But if you look
Yeah,
at
and I mean,
bad
look at any of the
CGI,
new
not the
movies.
same case.
Yeah, I mean, any new movie versus, or even a 2000s movie, right? We don't gotta go even movies in like 2000s and stuff, and you hold them to a 90s movie. The other day I was watching Face Off, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, John Woo is just the master of gun effects and things like that. Because I watched
Hmm.
that today, and yeah, it's got that corny 90 vibe to it, but I mean, the effects themselves and the stuff that they did in that movie and the big action sequences, and I mean, the way he slowed down the bullets when they shot at each other through the mirror, that stuff
Hmm.
still holds up to this very day. And that's the thing that you're missing about these movies, is that it, at the end of the day, how many of these newer movies are going to be like, the Godfathers and things like that, that will have such a long running history? And not very many. I mean, even take like something like Avengers or something like that. Yeah, we're talking about it, and we're talk about Marvel because they did do something no one's ever done. They've linked like 21 movies together. That within itself is an accomplishment, and you can't take that away. But beyond that, a couple of those movies might stand out a couple of years from now, but it'll just be on to the next thing. Whereas a movie like your Jokers or Parasite or this one, you have that thing where people can watch this and be amazed by, you know, all of the different themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the Avengers, the Avengers, and don't get me wrong, because I've absolutely enjoyed the MCU, but there's they're more entertainment to me in terms of if I want to just have some light-hearted entertainment, then I can watch Avengers, and I'll still be entertained by it, absolutely. But if I really want to watch quality film, then I'll I'll watch something else. I'll probably pick something from the '90s or the early 2000s, something that has real story depth and character depth, um, and has most likely those practical effects, just because
That
that's just what
Gary North was mentioned right or right on. Yeah, Gary, 70s and 80s, man, they aren't doing it like that anymore. But I mean, and that's why we talk about these movies with you guys, and we want to do this kind of thing every Sunday. It's because uh, I wanted to bring this movie up personally, because this is one of those, at least for me, one of those hidden gems that I think when people watch it, they would be like, wow, this is really good. Why haven't I heard about this kind of a thing? It's one of those movies. Like,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
really good, really enjoyable, and, it's so low key, and unfortunately, this is one movie where I would put out that argument of timing because when this came out, I, you know, marketing, and I think we've talked about this before, marketing can either make or break your movie. It's so evident, especially nowadays. Like,
Mm.
marketing is so important. And this film just was not out there. Like, I went on YouTube and looked up trailers. There was like two trailers, one teaser. That was it. Like,
Yeah.
and
Well,
a supposed TV spot that I never saw on TV.
well, maybe it was one of those little tiny ads down in the corner. But it's one of those things too with the budget. They had maybe they just didn't want to outlay the cash, for the marketing because they weren't sure how it was going to be received. But it's like a chicken and egg thing. If they had to put the marketing out there, then people probably would have seen it. Especially if the trailers, if the trailers were done well. And I didn't look at the trailers for this, but um, they didn't really, from my memory anyway, they didn't market Chris Hemsworth being in it much. They didn't market Jeff Bridges being in it, which were probably the two biggest draw cards. Although, that being said, Dakota Johnson was in the 50 Shades of Grey movies, which were popular around that time, I think, 2018-ish. So,
Yeah.
even she could have been a part of the promotion. So, yeah, I really wish they had had promoted it more. But it's definitely in that hidden gem sort of realm because for anyone who's watching, and I'm not actually looking at YouTube at the moment, so I don't know how many people watch it, but I know there's a few. You guys watching? If you haven't seen this movie, definitely go and see it. It's worth your time. I said earlier that the runtime's a little long, but I still felt satisfied at the end of it. It was a good overall movie, and Chris Hemsworth gave something different here. I think he gave something different to what he normally does.
And that's a thing. Like, when you think Chris Hemsworth, up to this point, you don't think villain. And even when you see his performance, he does something that I got to just give him respect for. He mixes that kind of humor that he's known for, but it's sadistic as hell. And he plays it so well. Like,
Mm.
I watch this and I go, Hemsworth is waiting for that one movie, just that one movie that's like some big director, some kind of drama, and I think he would be up for an award, hands down, because he's got the acting chops. Like,
Yeah,
he's got range. It's just the where they're casting him, because even that movie on Netflix, Extraction, like, he had some pretty good emotional moments in that movie, and I'm like, I would just love to see him try out a drama just to because I think he could, if you got a good director, a good story, I think he could pull it off. Like, he's
yeah, I
like
think so.
right, he's one of those actors, I feel like, that's right on the edge of breaking out into something like, getting those Academy Award nods kind of thing. I think he could really be in that group of actors. He just has got to get that one movie, because this one, it's just like a complete switch.
Mm. Yeah, it's something completely different for him, and I agree. I think he could do that. It just really depends on the story and the type of character, but he could absolutely win an Oscar. But with I don't know. I've got a real criticism of writers these days, so I don't know. Hey, maybe this quarantine stuff, maybe the COVID-19 lockdowns have given writers time to actually do their bloody job properly and give us something that's meaningful, something useful, something enjoyable, other than the 90% dribble that we get from writers these days.
I gotta tell you, like, I know I'm stupid for hoping, but I'm really feeling good about this James Bond film. I'm probably the only one in that circle, but I'm more curious because Rami Malek is going to be a bad guy, and I've seen Mr. Robot, so I know he can pull off that dual personality kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
curious to
I'm
see.
I'm holding out hope, but I don't know. See, this is the thing, and I I think it could be good, but there was a couple of recent Bond movies that I was just I don't know. They stopped feeling like Bond for me. Because I grew up watching, the Sean Connery, Roger Moore kind of James Bond, and then so Daniel Craig for me was fine in Casino Royale, and I found them okay, but I feel like the actual James Bond that I grew up watching is failing to exist anymore.
Yeah, well, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yes,
The
it is.
old versus the new. We could go on a whole tangent about those topics, but I think this is a good spot to sort of wrap things up because
Yep.
we try to keep these reviews to an hour and just give you guys a general overview. But my opinion, it rests with Stevie's. Definitely check this film out. We need like a two thumbs up, two thumbs down. If we're taking Cisco Niebert's job now, one didn't go
Well,
up, one down. I don't know.
well, I would definitely give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, me too. I would definitely give this a big thumbs up. Besides the minor points, and look, we are supposed to for you guys nitpick because I had a notepad the second time watching this just to gather my thoughts and pick out spots, but that's not to say that we don't enjoy something because especially
No,
for
it's
people
just
like us,
well,
when you have that critical eye, you know you know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah. Of course, it's just about. It doesn't mean we don't like. I think the way that we talk about these movies is, we either you from what we say, you'll get an idea if we like it or not. But because the comments from us will be either positive or overall negative. But really, like Zod said, at the end of the day, we're just talking into the nth degree about what we noticed in the film, and really, it's about whether we can help translate what everyone else felt about the movie into words. So, you know, we said this last week. I think movies make you feel this way, that way. You liked it, you didn't, but most people, the majority of people, aren't sure exactly why, or what it was about the film that created that feeling. So hopefully we can get into detail and help out with some of that.
Definitely. And everybody who watches this film, for our next review and afterwards, I'll get up to with you on Twitter or whatever. But we're going to we're going to put a poll out for you guys and we'll give you guys some choices to vote on, and then whatever you pick, we'll do a review for. So I don't know. It's the beginning ish of the week, so I guess now's a good time as ever with the 50 other things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I've got a few to add to the Twitter polls, so I'll let you know what they are in the background.
Yeah,
But yeah, keep an eye on everybody.
yeah, keep an eye out. We'll have that poll up, and then we'll let you guys decide which movie that we will review for you, and we'll watch it and stuff. I've got Amazon, which gives me pretty much anything that I want. So, I just click on my Amazon, and the great thing is, I watched some of this while I was working too. Like, I took my lunch, and it was like
Yeah.
because I watched an hour of it, and I'm like, oh God, I got to go to sleep, and then I finished the rest of between breaks and lunch. So,
Well,
uh,
that's the good thing about living in this day and age, isn't it? You got technology everywhere.
yeah, you can watch the whole movie on your phone. But thank you everybody for stopping on by. We appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who will listen to this and hopefully leave comments and tell us whether or not we're doing a good job. Because yeah, we like talking about this. So, Stevie, tell them about anything you got coming up or anything on the Prophets of Geek Culture, our alternates YouTube channel that produces stuff from all of us most
Yeah,
days.
well, I've been pretty slack on the Prophets of Geek Culture channel. I've just been a little bit time poor lately, so I'm doing a bit of work on my channel, but I should have a Parasite review up in the next couple of days, which will be good. I'm looking forward to doing
Ooh.
that. And so that's probably all that's going on at the moment. Other than that, just trying to find some more time.
Oh my God, is that not the quote of the day? I feel you working 4 a.m. till 2 in the afternoon. Everyone's like, "You got all that time off?" It's like, yeah, I do air conditioning units and ship them out and load trucks and stuff. So by the end of the day, I just like want to sleep.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, I don't really got much coming up except for our late night talks, which will be this Friday. I was going to do one on Saturday, but we had some things come up. So Friday and Saturday nights is the late night weekends where we just talk about shenanigans. It'll be me, PB, maybe someone else. But you get to hear our great commentary. You can go back through our playlist. We went over the whole riot thing. If you guys want a good laugh, definitely check out PB's perspective on that because it was hilarious. I thought for sure this channel was going to get canceled that night because the stuff we talked about was not conducive to the narratives out there. So, but anyways, thank you, Curtis, and thank you, Gary North. Gary, there's going to be a Twitter poll to answer your question, buddy. So whatever you guys pick will be the movie that we'll do next. So we're going to put that poll up for you guys to vote. So check out me and Stevie J's Twitter. So, our respective names. I'm General Zod. He's Stevie J Reviews. You can find us on YouTube and or Twitter. And you guys know the deal. As always, remember the only rule here in the fandom zone: kneel before General Zod.